think we're very happy because there's a bit more clarity that the ministry has provided. But more so, the ministry has increased the household income threshold for those that can benefit from non-tuition fees. And beyond that, we now have clarity in terms of whether or not grade 11s, in fact not grade 11s, we call them ordinary level students, can also benefit from the fully subsidized tertiary education. I think from our end, we're very happy and we applaud government, especially the Ministry of Education and the Honorable Minister, for continuing to listen to us.
So, Dorthea, what feedback have you received from students about these changes and how are they interpreting them?
I think, like I said, the students are very happy because we're facing significant barriers earlier when the policy was announced, and there was also a lack of clarity, but now there is more clarity, and we now have some of these barriers significantly moved out of the way for many students. So I think across the board, the feeling that seems to be mutual is a sense of relief from the students, but also general happiness. But obviously there are those students who, albeit there's a change, continue to be excluded. So I think those ones, would always feel left out. But really, where the majority of the students are included, the majority of the students are happy, we can confidently say that the Namibian students are happy.
And what would you say are NANSO's main goals when it comes to ensuring students benefit from this new system?
I think our main goals are inclusion. Ours is always that when we speak about education, we cannot say confidently as a country that we're providing fully subsidized education when people are not included. So our biggest goal is inclusion and access. And then we also have the pillar of quality, that yes, it's fully subsidized, but quality at the end of the day must be maintained at the highest level. And also we are then looking at another issue, which is, when we deal with education, it's not just about accessing a lecture hall, but also government must be concerned about how we get to the lecture hall, where you sleep, what you eat, and how you get to the lecture hall. So I think the increase from 100,000 for household for household income threshold annually to 300,000 has demonstrated that government, is concerned about that aspect, But, as we go along, we get to realize that there will be those students that are left out. So I think our focus is now trying to bridge the gap for those students.
Mm-hmm. Now, a while back, NANSO indicated possible protests if the government does not act. What happened to those, to that possibility of protests, and what form were these protests to take, and how soon could they happen if there was no response?
I think we had initially informed the Namibian House that should government not respond by the 27th of January 2026 in terms of grade 11 learners, but also in terms of the income threshold, then we would be mobilizing our students, learners and trainees to protest so that our demands are heard. But like I said, our government has demonstrated time and time again that it continues to be a listening government and a concerned government. So immediately that same week, in fact, we made this pronouncement on the Wednesday. Friday morning, the ministry has announced and, has handed to us all, not even one, all of our demands that we have submitted in the position paper. So that for us shows that there's no need for drastic action from our end. There's no need for radicalism from our end because government has given to us what we're asking for. So I think really, just to reiterate again, for those students that are listening and student leaders that are listening, is to show them that, we have a government that listens. We just need to ask as students. We just need to communicate our demands, and the government will listen to us.
Mm-hmm. Now, just how important is clear communication with the Ministry of Education, and what role does NANSO play in helping students to understand these policies?
I think we play a very critical role in terms of now bridging the gap in terms of access to information and information about the fully subsidized tertiary education. And I think our role on the end of the ministry is also providing them with intel in terms of what's happening on the ground, in terms of reality and implementation, and that's what we've done up to this point. And I think towards the students, we have the responsibility of communicating very, very openly, especially to those that maybe do not qualify. We have students that are perhaps pursuing their third or second qualification. So we need to be honest to them so that we don't have students that are surprised when they get to institutions trying to register and they realize that they don't qualify.
Mm-hmm. So beyond financial assistance, what other forms of support perhaps do you think that students need in order for them to succeed under this new framework?
I think one of the things that students really need is, I continue to say clarity. There must be clarity. There must be clarity at institutions. And institutions must communicate. Yes, ministry has made a communication, but institutions must also put out notices that clarify this process at an institutional level, because once there's a lack of clarity, then there's going to be an issue of access, because if we are not sure as students or we don't understand, then we end up not benefiting from what we are meant to benefit from as beneficiaries. So that's the first thing. And I think another thing is also just the students would really need some sort of support, like general support, because education is a national investment, and with every investment there must be returns. And I think from our end, the students is a very big expectation of academic excellence, and we are very clear as NANSO to communicate to our students that we cannot waste state resources. We've been given education, fully subsidized, so we must deliver great academic results. And with academic performance comes critical access to tools like ICT infrastructure, the internet, facilities to study, so 24-hour centers for our students to study. So when the time is right, we'll have a conversation with the ministry and with NSFAF to say, look, NSFAF is a big building, a very big building. Why don't they turn one of the auditoriums into a study center for our students? So I think that's the conversation we're moving to as well, that we are not just talking about access to education and funding, but we're talking about the aspect of academic excellence as well.
Mm-hmm. And while you are on that point and looking ahead, what kind of higher education system does NANSO want to see in the country?
I think we want to see a inclusive higher education system, but a quality one as well. And more so, we want to see a higher education system that is responsive to the needs of the country. It would be redundant for us to provide fully subsidized tertiary education. Like I said, education is a national investment, and with every investment there must be returns. To be redundant for us as a country to invest in an education that does not give back to our country or does not contribute to our country's economy or workforce. So by this I'm talking about an education system that is aligned to the economic needs of the country. So a education that really responds to the human capital needs of the country, because if we don't have that, then it means we are teaching people for 3 years. We are throwing them into the education system, we're graduating them, but only few of them get to contribute to the tax that really ensures the ones that are behind them to be educated, if I make sense. So I think those are the aspects that we expect. And we are hoping that the education system, albeit now fully subsidized, is still able to maintain, especially institutions like UNAM, NAS, AUM, the major institutions are able to still maintain their standing or ratings at an international level, and are able to retain professors and, lecturers at an international level. Because once you're dealing with state funding, the availability of funds becomes a critical question, because if the institution is charging its own registration fees and tuition, it means students will always pay on time because they need to urgently access education. And now you can afford a professor from the United Kingdom who's an expert on a certain topic, for instance. But once you deal with state funding, it truly becomes a challenge to retain or to bring in some of these experts on certain areas.
Mm-hmm. And just lastly, Dorthea, what message would you like to share directly with students, especially those who are anxious or uncertain about the changes that have come about?
I think I would like to inform the students that if there's one thing that I've learned on a personal level, is you need to be in charge of your future as well. As much as there are people who are tasked or mandated to aid you and to hold your hand, at the end of the day, it's your education and your future. Yes, the ministry will do what it can to communicate, NANSO will do what it can to communicate and provide access to information. But if you are not reaching out, you're not asking the questions, or you don't have clarity, you will remain unsure. So make use of the platforms that exist. Call the ministry, call the institution, call us as NANSO, where you really don't understand, will give you the answers that you need. The moment you sit at home and you expect the answers to magically come on your radio, like we're having this conversation today, you will be left out, because it's not every day that conversations like this are at your doorstep. You need to look for the information. But also, in addition to that, I continue to reiterate that education is a national investment. With every investment, there must be good returns. So students, NANSO expects nothing but academic excellence from your end. We must show government and we must show our parents that we are not people who waste state resources, but we value the little resources that are available and that are clearly being given to us in large portions. So we must then focus on our studies, dedicate ourselves to our studies. There are no barriers in terms of tuition and registration fees. So let us go into the institutions with clarity, dedication, and willingness to serve our country. I think at the bottom of it, the government is not giving us fully subsidized education because they are bored or because they just want to be Father Christmas. But they're giving us fully subsidized education because they want us to serve this country as a workforce. So that is a huge expectation on our end.